Hi, it's Amy with the Hag Reads. It is a little after 8 in the morning and I have been up since midnight. Not that I did it specially for BookTube-A-Thon. I think I said in my first video I'm having a little bit of insomnia, so I was up anyway and I thought I would get some reading in. So I picked two of the shortest books from the list that I gave yesterday and I finished them overnight. I started with Brains, a zombie memoir by Robin Becker, and I started that at a little after 12:30 last night, or this morning, depending on how you want to think about it, and I finished it just before 4:30 this morning, and that was with about 3 knitting breaks. I got a wild hair yesterday after I had my midday nap because I've been staying awake all night for 3 or 4 or maybe a week now. I don't know, my sleep schedule really screwed up, but I got a wild hair yesterday after I had my nap around 11 in the morning, and I got up a little bit later in the afternoon. I think I got maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and that's what I'm averaging a night, and I usually between 6 and 9 hours is what I normally get, so I'm not faring horribly. But the wild hair was that I thought I would start a baby blanket. Nobody I know is expecting a baby, at least that I'm aware of, but I just felt like knitting something, and baby blankets are fairly easy. So I started this, and I can't stretch it out because these needles aren't long enough, but so it'll be a little bit wider than what you can see. It won't be all ruffledy like this. It will lay out flat once I get it all off the needles, but because these needles aren't quite long enough for the length of the blanket to stretch all the way out, this is going to be the first row, and this yarn is called Wildflower, and then I'm going to use I'm going to make it stripes with colors based off of the palette that's in this yarn for the whole rest of it, and then I'll cap off the top with another skein of this. These skeins are smaller, and then I'm using this Super Saver by Red Heart for the middle rows, and I don't know that I'm going to use a whole skein because it really is, this is probably 2 to 2.5 size that this was when it was a full skein. I know you can't do a size comparison there, but so I took about 3 knitting breaks, and I think before I started reading at 12:30 I probably had about that much done from here to here, and so I knitted about another half of that. I watched an episode of Flash, 3 YouTube videos, so in the time it took me to read the first book, you know, I need breaks. I can't lay or sit for hours on end and read. I like to take a break to think about what I've been reading. So this was a little bit humorous, which was my prediction for yesterday, that this would be more humorous than gory, but it was actually quite gory. The descriptions made me cringe, like when you see somebody vomit on TV. I have if somebody makes vomiting noises, I will feel like, you know, I just don't deal well with that sort of thing. So these made me make this face. So it was quite a bit gorier than I expected it to be. And the book on the back predicted that I would be rooting for the zombies to win, and I was on Team Zombie all the way. I hope that there's not a second one. I like the way it ended, and I'm fine with it. I don't need more explanation than was offered. But as with you watch a horror movie, you think, wow, they left that wide open for a sequel. That's kind of how I felt at the end of this book. And it did kind of remind me of the plot of a B movie. I gave it a solid 3 stars. It could have edged into a 4th, but it's pretty short. And while I was rooting for Team Zombie, how much can you really root for zombies? It was, if you want to read a book that is totally from the zombies' perspective, this will be your jam, because it's all from his perspective and how he views his fellow zombie Scooby crew, and how they think about human beings, or at least how he thinks his fellow zombies thinks about human beings. They're surprisingly sentient. It's a small bunch, but yeah, if you want to flip it around and think about it from the zombie point of view, this is a good book to read. But it is quite gory, so be prepared for that. The other book that I finished, and this one was 182 pages. And this one was 158 pages, Stolen by Vivian Vande. This was the child-stealing witch. And typical to Vivian Vande, there were several twists in here. You know, I just find her writing charming. The stories are, I wouldn't say sweet, but they just have a certain appeal to me. I don't ever walk away from them feeling like, I'm sorry I read that. So this was a good one. I started this one at 5 o'clock this morning and finished at about 7:30. And that was with no knitting breaks. I did watch 2 YouTube videos. I'm trying to catch up on my BookTube backlog. I haven't watched in maybe a week and a half. It might have been as long as 2 weeks. So to anyone who is subscribed to me, I'm sorry if I've been leaving you lots of comments, because I just binge watched about 1/8 of my subscription list, whatever you've been posting for the last 10 days or so. But I have a pretty extensive list, and Netflix just came out with new seasons of stuff, so I wasn't watching YouTube because I binge watched episodes of Criminal Minds and NCIS for the latest seasons that ended before, I guess, in the spring. Is that when they end? Before summer happens. And so they're available. Right now I'm in Flash, and I still have to watch the Arrow and a couple of others. I'm saving the season of Supernatural, which has been out for a while, and the season of Sherlock. Those have both been out for longer, but I'm saving those as my as my special treat for the other seasons of things. Like, I want to cap it off with those. I don't want to watch them at first. I couldn't control myself with Criminal Minds. I just had to. I really love that show, and I miss Mandy Patinkin a lot, but I think I'm feeling like some of the episodes are much more quick to resolve than they used to be, because they have this other overarching storyline going on, and I feel like, I don't know if that was always the case, but I feel like the last couple seasons that the crimes that they're solving are almost pushed much farther back in favor of this overarching prison break serial killer thing, and then specifically with the individual killers, capping off with the biggest, baddest baddie. And I don't know that I like that. I know there was always an overarching theme in each season, but I feel like that's been taking more and more of the story, and so the crimes for the rest of the show just seem to be less interesting, I guess. And they solve them, it's kind of almost glossed over, I feel like. That could just be because it's been on for, I don't know, what is it, 12 or 14 seasons now. And And then I also kind of couldn't help myself with NCIS. But I don't enjoy NCIS as much as I do Criminal Minds or Supernatural. So that's what I've been doing and not watching my YouTube videos for BookTube. But so I have my first 2 books out of the way. This one was children's, so do not be impressed that I've read 2 books. These were both under 200 pages, and it took me from 12:30 last night until around 8 o'clock this morning to read them. And I did get in some knitting, so yay! That is my first video for this 7-day period to keep track of my BookTube-A-Thon, because I don't really do Twitter. I will take a picture of these for Instagram. And then I am not sure what I'm reading next. I think I want to get a start on Planet Walker, or read a few more chapters, and maybe start on one of the longer books, The Unseen World or The Lock are, I think, 2 of the longest ones in my pile. So I think I might start one of those. And then when I'm feeling like a little break, I'll probably read this one, because these usually go pretty fast too. This is the Hercule Poirot one. But I'm saving that because it's probably the shortest in the rest of this pile. And so go me, go you. And happy whatever time of day it is for you. It is just after 8, or it is just before 8:30 in the morning here. And I feel kind of tired. I've got a few dishes to wash. And I will probably get a little bit of a start on my next book. Otherwise, I will sit here and zone out and watch some Flash and knit a little bit before I take my nap. See you next time. Bye.